This is a HeadGum podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Complete Guide to Everything, a podcast about everything. I'm one of your hosts, Tom.
And I'm Tim.
Tim, how are you doing this week?
Tom. Oh, man. Bad start. Off to a bad start. I called you my name.
Off to a bad start. You know, it's rare it happens, but it has happened before. So
Yeah.
It's confusing, even for us sometimes.
And the joke I was going to make, I was going to go, Tom, I'm high as a kite.
Yeah.
Because this drops on 420, man.
You're like, kite, I'm high as a Tom.
Yeah. Tim,
Whoa, what's going on,
Tom
man? I'm freaking out.
I'm not high as a kite.
No, I can attest to that. Unless you got like real high before you came over. No, I don't even know. Or like took a bunch of drugs before you came over and they're just kicking in now.
I have no tolerance for anything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have tolerance for Tom, can I ask you something?
A lot of people talk about how intolerant you are.
Tom.
But they say it in a negative way.
The only thing I hate is hate.
Oh. The only thing I won't tolerate is intolerance.
Exactly. What's absinthe all about, Tom?
Oh, it's like a liquor, but in making it, or at least like real absinthe, they do something with wormwood.
Okay. Which makes it
wormwood, which is a type of wood, not a type of worm.
Mm-hmm. But it's wood with like worms in it, probably, presumably.
No,
right?
I mean in my mind, yes, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm assuming kind of like a wood with a bunch of holes that worms can go in.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And somebody cut one of these trees down one day and was like, "This looks like a bunch of worms have been in here," and here we are.
That's how we get names for things.
But I think when it's like aged, it's aged either in wormwood or wormwood's in there, and that apparently has hallucinogenic. I think it's one of these things where it's like alcohol is required to like pull it out of the wormwood itself, you know? Like if you took a plank of wormwood and licked it, I don't know if anything would happen.
Right.
Maybe
okay.
it has to be like diluted in alcohol.
Got it.
But then absinthe too, like people pour it over a sugar cube. But I believe that's just for taste.
See, I don't know. Like, all right, so when we became of like drinking age or started drinking, right? Like,
yeah.
Wasn't absinthe like, well, one day I want to go to France and have some absinthe, right? Like, it's like, can't get it in America. And like that stuff is crazy.
I think it's Dutch, maybe?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
but like, all I know is that the other night I went out to a place in my neighborhood and had some, Thai food.
Yeah.
And had a cocktail with absinthe in it.
Whoa.
But it's just like, no, I think I see that all the time, and it's just like, that's not like really a thing. And then people are like, I remember like 20 years ago, people are like, yeah, but is it real absinthe? But like, I don't know.
Yeah, but is it the kind that Marilyn Manson drinks before he writes his songs?
Whoa. I don't want to get in that. I don't ever want to be in that twisted of a mindset.
No. I mean, he sounds like he's actually a real sick,
sick puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so let's not blame the absinthe on that.
Right.
But I believe that there's also like you could still call something absinthe if it doesn't have the wormwood in it. Like it's still alcohol.
Okay.
It will still have an effect when you drink it.
Yeah. Well, I did fall asleep on my couch at 9:15.
Okay. I mean,
we had a 7:45 dinner reservation, and I was dead asleep on my couch at 9:15 p.m.
Well, that's the absinthe. That'll do that for you. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that that's what the case is.
I also haven't been to a restaurant in a long time, Tom. Going to a
have
restaurant,
things changed.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
This is a lot of money.
Yeah, tariffs.
Yeah.
You got to bring in those meals.
That absinthe, man.
Yeah.
That's probably hit hard by the tariffs, right?
Yeah, because they can't keep that stuff in stock. They're always, they got to import it over. We need more. People are crazy for it. I don't know if the hallucinogenic. I feel like I've also heard that the the hallucinogenic effects of it are like overstated.
Yeah.
That's like, yeah, if you drink a lot of it, like, you know, the lights will get blurry or whatever, but like, it's not like taking mushrooms.
Yeah. Well,
or
take
acid.
it from me, everybody. I didn't hallucinate at all.
Yeah. Well, you might just be tough.
I'm pretty tough. Mentally, physically.
Emotionally. This week, we're not talking about absinthe, Tim.
No.
We're talking about a different type of drug.
A different type of drug that'll make you see the craziest stuff.
Yeah. Cannabis. It won't make you see the craziest stuff. I mean, if you take a lot of it, maybe. I looked. We did an episode called Legal Weed when weed was legalized.
What was that? Was it 2020, 2021?
2021. So
Right.
4 years ago
Okay.
now.
Legalized in the state of New York.
In the state of New York, which
Right.
is the state we both live in.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I live in a state of euphoria.
Well, you do
Because
now.
we got legalized cannabis.
Isn't that crazy that was only 4 years ago? That seems like it was like a year ago.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Nothing means anything.
But New York, I mean, that's, I think, mostly what we talked about, that it was done while Cuomo, our governor, probably soon to be mayor.
Our governor at the time.
Governor at the time, before he was humiliated out of office.
For being a sex pest.
Yeah. And for killing a bunch of people in a nursing home.
Yeah. Well, no, people didn't really care about that.
Yeah.
That didn't really factor into it. People were like, yeah, that too, I guess. I don't know. I don't know the
They're
details of
probably
that.
going to die soon anyway. Yeah, people didn't care as much.
I know that. I mean, to me, that's pretty egregious. I think they're both egregious.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Like, it really is like he should be in jail for that nursing home stuff. Right?
Oh yeah, and like nothing, like he resigned, not even about that, of course, like about the sex pest stuff. And it was like, all right, well, you better not come back in 4 years and try and be in charge again. He's like, no, I have the perfect job for me. I'll be in charge of the city I hate. But anyway,
And I'll be elected overwhelmingly.
yeah, he was trying to.
Hold on. Can I just say, like,
Yeah.
the whole narrative
Mhm.
and like the whole, like, it's like, oh, he's running for mayor. So like the whole media narrative is just like, well, he's the front runner because
It's a name you've heard of.
Yeah, it's a name you've heard of, and it's just like, it's like, well, what are his ideas? It's like, well, he wants power, and this is the most
Yeah.
powerful thing, and we support him in his endeavors.
He wants power, and he sees the writing on the wall, so he'll capitulate to the current administration when necessary.
But they're like, yeah, vote him in. You know his name, and he wants it. He wants to be powerful again. So come on.
Yeah, he's mad that he got it taken away from him. But anyway, as a like last ditch effort to try and distract everyone from all that, he legalized weed in New York with like the stroke of a pen.
With no plan.
And now he had been the one for years holding it up. That, you know,
That's a smart thing to do, though. I would do that. I'd be like, this thing that everybody wants, I'm gonna hold it. I'm gonna hold it in my back pocket, and then when I'm personally vulnerable, then I'll give it to everybody.
Yeah. So basically, you know, for years people wanted like, no, like let's do it. Like let's get started now because, you know, you're gonna need a plan to roll all this out. And instead he was like, I know I've said no, but now I'm saying yes, and yes meaning today. Today it's legal. So we had this period in New York where it was like the Wild West because I forget exactly how the law went, but it was something like you couldn't sell, you had to get a license in order to sell it. But people were doing all these loopholes of like, oh, you're not buying this, you're buying a sticker, and I'm giving you, you know, to go with your $100 sticker, half an ounce of weed as well. But that's a gift from me to you,
Right.
Because gifting it was legal,
Right.
But and then also like growing your own. It just shows what the you know what the thinking here was. Like they did not legalize like being if you're a medical patient that
You're Wild Man Steve.
well, not a medical patient. I think they were allowed to. But if you're as a regular person and you're like, oh, I want to grow like one plant in my backyard.
No,
It's like,
no,
absolutely
we can't
not.
tax that, you fool.
Yeah. They said that would not be legal until the stores started opening, I think,
Right.
the dispensaries. So now you can.
Right.
There's I don't know what the limit is. You can't, have a basement.
I don't know.
full.
I'm not a drugs guy, Tom.
Mm-hmm.
You're a big weed man.
I'm not a big weed man, but I am a big
But-
weed man. No, I'm more into it than you.
Yeah, I'm more of a ween man. I really like the works of Ween, Gene and Dean Ween.
Oh, as opposed to weed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a band named Weed?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah, but it's funny that there isn't a famous band named Weed, right?
Maybe there. We don't know.
A
We're
famous band.
famous wad band.
We don't know. Yeah, we do, because they're not famous.
Well, you don't know a lot of bands, Tom.
I know most of the bands
The
out
bands
there.
you don't know could fill a could
Not
play
the
Wembley
famous
Stadium,
ones.
Tom.
I'm saying like a famous English language band named Weed.
Let's
I
see.
don't think they exist. Like, if you tell me like, oh, there's a Norwegian like a speed metal group called Weed, but weed means death in their language.
From the kind of music they play, overloaded stoner gaze with a heavy Dinosaur Jr. and My Bloody Valentine influence, you might think the Vancouver-based duo of Will Anderson and Kevin Doherty were referring to the medicinal and recreational herb when they named their band Weed. They insist it's a verb, as in to get rid of something harmful or superfluous.
Well, then they should name the band Let's Weed.
Well, then people would be like, don't you mean let's smoke weed?
Yeah,
Or
and
let's
then they'd be
do
like-
weed? Tom, how often do you do weed?
But that's what they should. No, because then they would say, no, Let's Weed. That's the name. We got all the merch printed up. It's not Let's Do Weed.
But then what if they're telling somebody and they're like, oh, my band name, Let's Weed.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody's like, Less Weed? Are you guys against weed?
Oh, Les Weed.
Because they would mishear
I
it.
thought it was a guy's name, like Lester Weed.
Oh,
Les Weed.
That's a cool name.
Yeah. That'd be a good name.
For if you were a straight edge guy, you'd name your kid Less Weed. I guess you'd name him No Weed.
Yeah. Yeah, not Les. Tim.
One thing you shouldn't, if that's your last name, don't name your kid Dill. Please do not name your kid Dill.
Yeah, he's never going to hear the end of it. Oh, man. Tim, we heard from a friend this week who was unaware of the current usage of the word goon.
Yeah, do we have to get into this stuff?
No, but it's just like a similar thing.
Yeah, he's also a middle-aged dad of an almost teenager and used it in front of...
In front of the kids' friends
Yeah.
who nearly died laughing and are going to laugh about it for the rest of their lives now. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Don't look it up if you don't know. Or just go to Urban Dictionary, look up goon, gooning.
Gooning, goon cave, gooners,
Yeah.
goonageddon. That's if the internet goes down.
Wait, what is it?
Goonageddon.
Goonageddon?
Yeah.
That's what they're concerned about if the internet goes down?
Yeah, Tim, that's what makes them gooners.
Yeah, I guess so.
You know? That's,
Yeah, your whole life is
that's what they
centered
care about first and foremost.
on gooning.
Yeah. You never hear somebody that they're like, oh, I play tennis and I dabble in gooning. No. Tim, it's a lifestyle.
Have you ever met somebody who's into the gooning lifestyle?
I don't think you can. If they're like a true gooner,
they're not outdoor
they're not
people.
out there. You
Yeah.
might run into them online, sure, in between sessions. But, they're not going out that much.
Right. Okay. What were we talking about? Weed? Oh, they should just name the band Weed.
Who did?
Weed.
Oh, yeah. That should have been Let's Weed.
Well, I don't understand why you Let's Weed.
Because otherwise if they're talking about it as a verb, use it as a verb in a sentence so then people understand.
But that's the thing. They're towing the line. That's so they can tell whoever wrote this bio on Apple Music, they're no, it's not about smoking weed. That'd be too obvious. It's about,
as soon as the biographer from Apple Music left their house, oh, well, thank you, fellas, for all the information. They're like, oh, he bought it.
Got him.
Now, Tim, we're talking about the old reefer.
I call it grass.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
You know what I call it?
What?
God's herb.
You famously do call it God's herb.
Just like our 7th grade health teacher told us everybody calls it.
Yeah.
I know you guys are going to hear, it's God's herb. If God didn't want us to smoke it, why would he put it on Earth?
Yeah, and I think a lot of us were like, I hadn't even thought about that. But yeah, actually,
it's all natural. Okay, yeah.
I have another question. Based on what you told me about all the other drugs here and like how hard it is to make them and all the different poisons that go into them, like how come this one's so bad? But anyway, we're doing the show because it's 420,
right?
When this comes out.
If you're listening to this the moment it drops, which I think the statistics don't lie, 99% of our listeners listen to it the minute it comes out.
Practically live.
99%. We get this information from the back end. 99% of people, whatever they're doing, whoever they're with, they say, "Fuck off! I gotta go listen to this podcast."
Yeah, because
these two guys, it's wild. You gotta listen.
You're not gonna believe the shit that comes out of their mouths.
Do you even know about gooning?
Because these guys bring it up pretty much every week. That completely. Oh, I was gonna. Now I'm thinking about gooning. No, I was gonna say that. Nope, I lost my train of thought once again. Oh, I was gonna say that the show doesn't come out at the same time on Sundays,
right?
It
should. It comes out at the same time every time I post it.
I mean, me too, but I think we post it at different times.
All right, on the count of 3, let's say what time we schedule it to post on Sunday.
Yeah,
right. And this is Eastern Standard Time, GMT 5.
Something like that.
-5. 1, 2, 3.
4:30
p.m.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, that makes it easier. You just have to keep your schedule clear. Those two.
So this week's gonna be a 7 p.m.
This week, it's my week to edit.
Next week, whatever we do, maybe Tom's birthday celebration.
You know what?
Episode.
Maybe I'll put this one out a little early.
Put it out at 4:20,
so people can toke while they listen.
Yeah, put it out at 4:18 so they can download the full thing and then write at 4:20.
I mean, the podcast download's pretty quick, Tim.
A lot of people still have 28.8 modems that listen to us. We get that information too.
Yeah,
we have a lot of older people on the older side who haven't upgraded there,
and we have the boys in the back end. They send us the report every week, their findings. It's 420. Do you know where that comes from?
No, and you're going to claim that you do right now, but nobody does. Not even the editors of High Times themselves.
Tim, the editors of High Times can't even remember their own names at this point.
How do they even get that magazine out every month?
That magazine, if High Times just came out like randomly. Sometimes it was half finished.
It's like an article stops in the middle of a sentence.
It just trails off, falls asleep. There's no definitive thing, but there is.
But you have a theory, I'm sure.
Well, there's one that's considered the most. It's the most widely accepted origin story.
Okay.
Now, when I was a kid, or not a kid, in high school, I had heard that it was a police radio code for marijuana-related incidents.
Yeah, but that, you can look up the codes.
You can look up the codes, and also...
And I'm on my police scanner 24/7. I never hear that.
Well, and also they vary by jurisdiction.
Right.
So they're not even the same everywhere.
No, but I know them all by jurisdiction. Just how, how you have, an encyclopedic recall of the age of consent in every state.
And country.
I know all the police codes, scanner codes
all over
for everything.
Like Rain Man. It's just you have them all memorized.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's useful, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry, it got me thinking about Rain Man and how did that win Best Picture at the Academy Awards?
I think so. Maybe
it's just like it was a phenomenon, and if they put that out now,
yeah,
I don't know. Everybody would just get.
They could probably put it out again in a few years.
Yeah, now
the way things are going, make it a slapstick comedy.
It kind of was a slapstick comedy.
It wasn't slapstick.
When he drops all the things and he counts them all real quick.
Yeah, that's not slapstick, Tim.
Something fell on the ground.
If you saw the Three Stooges do that, you wouldn't go like, wow, what a classic Three Stooges slapstick moment.
That's true.
382 matchsticks. Yeah, there's not that many, you idiot.
Actually, you know what? I would this is exactly what I want to see.
Remake Rain Man with the Three Stooges in all the roles. There's only 2 roles, but
get rid of Tom Cruise. Get Mo Howard in there.
Yeah, I mean it would be Mo and Curly would be Rain Man, and I don't know what Larry would do.
Yeah, Larry's always superfluous, right?
Nah, Larry's funny.
If I was gonna go watch the Three Stooges now, would like Larry be?
No,
Larry's the glue.
He's the George Harrison of the Three Stooges.
Okay.
He's the dark horse.
Oh, all right.
No, I've watched some Stooges recently, and I was like, man, Larry's got some cutting asides.
Wait, wouldn't that make him? That'd make him Lennon.
Lennon?
I don't think the Three Stooges map cleanly onto the Beatles. Now that I'm thinking about it.
No, it's the same problem with Rain Man, Tim. Yeah, there's not enough of them.
Well, there's only two. There's only the 2 of them in Rain Man, and there's Three Stooges, and then there's 4 Beatles and Three Stooges.
Yeah.
So if we average the 2 leads in Rain Man with the Beatles, and then double the Stooges.
All right. Well, Mo Howard is John Lennon. He's the cranky one.
Yeah.
I think Curly would.
But Paul
is
leader.
Curly.
But Paul was the leader.
Yeah, but Curly's like kind of the main attraction, you know?
Yeah.
And then I think you've got Shemp as Ringo.
No, because Ringo had flair.
So Shemp.
Shemp had no flair.
Shemp had flair.
Shemp sucked shit, and you know it.
It was confusing
because
he looked so much like Mo.
Exactly. He was just like a more boring Mo. It's like, oh, there's one with Mo and boring Mo.
Well, it was just kind of like
Larry. Larry's still there.
A less angry Mo.
Yeah.
You know? And
no,
it's like,
Shemp seemed like he was like more deeply angry.
Tim,
like,
we gotta get back to cannabis talk. We can't be talking about I'm not
the Stooges.
I'm not even gonna say their names. Another popular urban legend was that
this is the only show where you can get an in-depth analysis of the Stooges, and some information on gooning.
Probably is.
Yeah.
Because, they existed like 100 years apart from each other. It is not the number of active chemical compounds in cannabis. That was apparently another urban legend.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, no, there aren't 420.
What does that even mean, active chemical compounds? I
don't know. I mean, there are like THC is a chemical compound. CBD is a chemical compound, but I don't think there's that many of them. It's not related to Bob Dylan's song "Rainy Day Woman" number 12 and 35.
Because those are the wrong numbers.
Well, Tim, if you multiply them, they equal 420.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So people thought it was that.
Huh.
And it is not related to Hitler's birthday, but it is the same day.
Right.
Or the death dates of Bob Marley or Jimi Hendrix.
They both died on 420?
I don't think so. I think it's like, A, that's not when they died, and B, that's not why it's 420.
Right.
I don't think so.
We should have a fake producer name that we can throw to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Be
And
like,
and then what? And then nobody.
be like, Dill, pull this up. Or when did Jimi Hendrix die?
This is Lester Weed's son, Dill, you're talking about right now?
And Dill would be like, oh, no, he died on September 18th, 1970.
Oh, okay.
And that's when he joined the
27 Club.
27 Club and went
Yeah,
up
I
there.
think that's what it is. People were getting the 27 Club confused with 420.
Right.
But here's the accepted origin story.
Bob Marley died May 11th. What year do you think Bob Marley died?
72.
81.
You know, I was going to say, I think it was like later than I thought.
And how old do you think Bob Marley was when he passed?
45.
36.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Bob Marley was young.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
he would still be like not that old now.
He was
He'd
alive
be
when
old
you
now.
were alive.
Yeah, for a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, very curious.
It is very curious. So it came from a group of high school students in San Rafael, California in the fall of 1971. The group called themselves the Waldos because their usual hangout spot was a wall outside the high school.
These guys, I like these guys. I like to go to their gym.
Yeah. They came into possession of a hand-drawn map supposedly leading to a patch of cannabis plants that the original grower, a Coast Guard member, could no longer tend. They decided to meet after their extracurricular activities finished, which was at 4:20 p.m.
Wait, they were stoners and they had extracurriculars?
Yeah, Tim.
No, that's the whole thing
paint
about
with
the stoners. They're not joiners.
Yeah, but I
They
don't know.
scoff at like I'm going to join the football team or the drama club.
Well, these guys might not have been stoners yet, Tim. This might have been how they got their first weed, you know?
At this point, they were but they were the Waldos at this point.
Yeah, they were the
okay.
Waldos.
So they were just a group of guys hanging out by the wall, doing nothing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
after
they're like,
after
well, we got
football
this map.
practice,
This seems like, yeah.
seemed like they were busy.
Also,
Mm-hmm.
can you imagine, like, after, like, you're done with everything for the day, and it's 20 after freaking 4? That's great.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Teenagers. I wish I
wish I was a
every
teenager.
day I curse that I'm not a teenager.
So they decided to meet at 4:20 by the statue of Louis Pasteur on the
Okay.
school campus. Initially, they used the phrase 420 Louis to remind each other of the plan. Over time, they dropped Louis and then used 420 as a general code word for smoking cannabis or anything related to it,
Right.
allowing them to discuss it without parents or teachers understanding. Which, again, goes back to our friend who said the word goon in front of his kid and his kid's friends, and they were all laughing, and he didn't know why they were laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And
So if some clueless dad had been like,
he told us that they were like, "Oh yeah, you like to goon? I bet you love gooning." And he was just like, "Yes." Why is that so funny? But here's now this is where I'm like, oh, because this sounds like the kind of thing of like, okay, maybe this is true, but like, how could it have spread from there? Like
things playground to playground. Did one of them maybe
well, that's what it is. I think
hook up with Cheech and Chong at some point?
you hear about so many like playground rumors. Like I remember as a kid, it was like definitive news. Super Mario Brothers 4, you were going to play as Baby Mario.
Yeah. I think I only know that because you've cited
Yeah.
that on every episode of this show.
But I remember like asking a kid who like lived in a town over about it. He's like, "Yeah, I heard that too."
yeah, from a guy on the playground whose uncle works for Nintendo.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, me too. All right. The
But you never
popular place for uncles to work.
yeah, but you never hear about like the origin of things like that. It's like, yeah, a bunch of kids had the same idea at some point. But the Waldos weren't any kids, Tim. The term
is like the Choom Gang. One of them became the president of the United States of America.
The term spread beyond their immediate circle, partially because some of the Waldos had connections to the band The Grateful Dead, who were based in the Marin County area. The term gained popularity within the Deadhead community and eventually spread much wider, further popularized by publications like High Times Magazine. It's like, yeah, man, if you want to get a new weed-related phrase out there's no faster way than being friends with the Grateful Dead in 1971.
Yeah, of course. Do you know that there's like the Grateful Dead now are polarizing in like a is a hot dog a sandwich way?
How so?
Where it's like,
are they good or bad?
Yeah.
Okay.
And people are like, you either love them or you hate them.
Yeah,
and like,
I think that's always
But now,
been.
like, everybody, like, even like everybody in like their 20s,
the
rest of my Gen
opinion?
Z cohorts are all like, yeah, I have an opinion on the Grateful Dead. And it's like, I think you and I are like, they kind of seem like they suck. I don't know. I'm not going to listen to them.
Yeah, but I also remember really liking the video where there were skeletons. Remember that?
Yeah.
Like
Touch
as
of
a
Grey.
kid. What was it called?
Touch of Grey.
Touch of Grey, yeah.
And they were probably our age when they put that out.
Yeah, I mean, they got a touch of gray.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid, like, loving that song.
Yeah.
And it was rarely on. I think probably just because it was like, they're not like a music video band.
Yeah, and you can see all the strings, too.
Yeah, it was a poorly made music video. That was like, was that their only like, I don't know, like mainstream single?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was the only time they like tried.
Yeah. Like, we're going to put out a 3-minute long song.
I think they were like, when do we get like as rich as like
everybody else?
Yeah, like Mark Knopfler or
Yeah.
like, like all the other 70s guys that like really cashed in.
Yeah. So yeah, that's
I enjoyed the Sublime cover of Scarlet Begonias.
No, I don't think I'm familiar with that.
Do.
Well, I was gonna say,
and a lot of it was just them singing over Bradley singing over the actual Grateful Dead recording.
Oh, so it's like a karaoke version.
Yeah, but hey. It introduced me to the Dead, and then I Napstered.
And you've been following him ever since.
I downloaded from Napster that Casey Jones, is that driving that train
high on cocaine. Yeah. And they were like, whoa, the conductor's high?
Yeah, that's why trains used to go so fast.
He's been doing lines while riding the rails.
Mm.
He probably should have been doing rails while riding the rails. Right? Do they call them rails too when you
think
snort
so.
them? Yeah. Fuck. Why didn't I say?
I've famously never been in the same room as cocaine being done.
Yeah, but if somebody came up to you and said, "Hey, man, you want to go to the bathroom, do some rails?"
I'd probably say no.
But you know what they meant.
Anybody comes up to me and says, "Hey, man, want to go to the bathroom?" blank, blank, blank. And they're like, no.
Wash your hands.
Like I will at some point do that, but not with you.
Yeah, but you would know when they said rails what that means. You would be like, I have a feeling you're not talking about the handicap stall.
Right. Maybe they are though.
Yeah. And they're like, no, yeah, the rails in there. I like to go in there and stand on them until somebody comes in and yells at me.
Did you ever go to a concert after doing weed?
Not really.
Really?
Yeah. No, I was going to say that I was going to bring up like quote unquote stoner bands, weed related bands, because we started talking about the Dead.
Yeah.
And I never, because I feel like when we were in high school, like the 60s and 70s had like a huge like resurgence. Mm-hmm. And there was so much. Like, I just remember the record store we went to. There was so much, like, 70s era stuff.
Yeah.
You know?
record store.
Yeah, but I just that was like my exposure to things like the Grateful Dead, like just seeing like, all right,
I don't even think of them as a weed band. I think of them as just like
like a drug band in
free-for-all,
general. Yeah. Well, they helped popularize 420.
They did, thanks to the Waldos.
But I'm just saying, like, I remember in high school, like people getting really into like the Grateful Dead and things, and so often I remember thinking like, you don't have access to any of the drugs they're singing about,
right? But I do think like the kids that listen to them and Fish, like they were smoking weed.
Yeah, the Fish kids.
Yeah,
I'm talking about like a little younger. I think people got into like the Grateful Dead because they had, the teddy bear posters at Spencer's Gifts, and people like that. So they were like, "Oh, now I'm a Grateful Dead fan."
Posers, you're saying?
Posers, Tim. They were all posers. Well, that
man, I called so many people posers in junior high.
I mean, a lot of people deserved it, to be honest.
Yeah. But, who is public enemy number one?
Yeah.
Poser enemy number one? Poser
of
number
course. One? Everybody in high
all
school is a
projection.
poser.
Yeah, exactly. That was the thing. That's my point, right?
Yeah, everybody's trying on new personas to see how they go. We all knew you weren't nearly as goth as you pretended to be.
I was very goth. I drank so much absinthe.
Did you ever get into like Cheech and Chong?
No, but I did like that Basketball Jones song.
Oh yeah. I've like seen them in a million things now.
Yeah.
Like they're walking. I mean, Cheech Marin had like a little more of an acting career than Tommy Chong.
Yeah. I remember Comedy Central would show like, not even Up in Smoke, not like their like hit movies, but it was like
like the later ones they made or whatever.
Yeah, it's just like and I remember watching it like
here's one is the third time after they went back to the well too many times.
Yeah, I also I have never ever been a fan. Even like it was like a calendar year. Like 9/11 happened, and I was in college in New York City, and I was like, the way I'm going to cope with this is become a stoner for a year.
Yeah.
And then it started giving me panic attacks, and I stopped, and I haven't smoked since, except for one time on this very podcast. Or on the
not
Patreon.
This on the Patreon, old Patreon we did.
But even in that year, stoner culture or weed culture was always just like, this is stupid.
Yeah.
You guys, like, look, when it's like, I like smoking weed.
Yeah.
But it's just like, but my God, I don't, this shouldn't be your whole personality.
I think that's what it was. Like
nothing should be this much of your personality.
Yeah, certainly that was the case for me, like when I was younger. And I think that's why I never got into it, because it was like, well, everybody I know that smokes, that's their thing. Like, that's what they do. They're a stoner. Like, I didn't know people that were like, oh, yeah, from time to time, I like to dabble a little bit. It was like, no, I smoke, and this is my entire personality.
Right.
It's all the clothes I wear. It's, I've got stickers on my car, all kinds of stuff like that. And it was always like, I don't know, to me, like a very ugly aesthetic too, I think.
Yeah.
Like it didn't personally appeal to me.
Yeah, for like something that was supposed to like unlock creativity.
Yeah.
It was all just like the cheesiest. Like, even as an idiot, I was like, this is cheesy.
Yeah. And just like, I don't know, like let's just use like the brightest colors and just wacky colors. And that's weed. And it's like, that's not actually what doing weed is like. You don't see everything in wacky colors, and the teddy bears don't come to life and start dancing.
You just sit and like forget about your life until that tipping point where you think you're having a medical emergency and you have to stop doing it forever.
And I think that's one of the like huge things that's changed now. That like
I will say this. I hate
current weed
culture even more.
I was gonna say it's not that it's better.
The aesthetic of these dispensaries, not even like the Apple, but like
the Apple Store
just like
looking
the
ones.
luxury, like it's luxury, like it's a cannabis experience. It's like shut up. This is even cheesier than at least the other stuff had a DIY aesthetic to it.
Well, I partially don't blame them just because.
Let's like hire the marketing director from Equinox or something. It's like, I guess.
Yeah, I mean that's the other end of it. Is it went from being this like stoner 60s 70s aesthetic thing to now just like any business, anything where like already very rich people saw the ability to make even more money. People saw, the tobacco companies and they're like, man, imagine if you could start a new company like that today. That'd be great. I mean, it's different. It's not as addictive. And I think that's actually what some of these investors and people might be finding out, that it's like, I don't know, people like that's the other problem with a lot of the stores. It's like if you went into a liquor store and they only sold like Everclear,
right?
If they only catered to like,
hey, I'd like to go into a record store and all they sell is Everclear.
No, like if they only catered to people with drinking problems,
right?
And if it was like, oh, I'd like a nice dessert wine, they were like, fuck you, we have vodka. That's the lightest thing we have in here.
Right.
That is the case at a lot of places. And I think it's because that's where the money is.
But I mean, I went to one dispensary one time and I chickened out before, doing the pot that I bought there. I was like, this is going to give me a panic attack.
I thought you were going to say you chickened out from buying it.
No, I gave them my money and then just like never. But like I was like, look, I'm afraid I'm going to have a panic attack, and they were like, oh, come over here and look at like the really like
come over here. They put you in a dark room.
No, they did. Yeah, they just had a guy come out and be like, "You're a wuss, man. You're a pussy."
Tough it up.
No, and they show me like, "Oh, this is the stuff that is like we take a lot of the, or it's indica, not sativa."
Yeah,
which I hate. That I know that. You know how I know the difference?
What's that?
Indica. I heard this on a podcast somewhere. Where some stoner was like, indica, I think of like, that puts you in the couch.
I think you might have heard that on this podcast.
Really?
And it might have been me that told you. I mean, not that I came up with it, but that's what I heard.
Yeah, one time our shop teacher in 7th grade was teaching us, like, he's like, oh, lefty loosey, righty tighty, when he was talking about like how to like...
screw things.
Yeah. And then some skateboard kid in my class is like, how do you know that? That's a skateboard thing. It's a screw thing.
Yeah. Screws, nuts, bolts, all manner of fasteners.
Yeah, if you think about it, that is not unique to skateboards.
No.
I know that skateboards are your life. That's cool. Yeah. But it's not crazy that the shop teacher also
did you think like nothing else worked like wheels on a skateboard or trucks on a skateboard?
Anyway, sorry. Go on. Indica in the couch.
Yeah. But it works. Now you know.
Yeah.
And sativas.
Oh, what's sativa?
Sativa is like the upper.
Yeah, but there's no like...
there's not a sativa.
There's no mnemonic device that I could use?
You're going to be... You're not going to want to.
Well, it's kind of like stevia, which is like sugar, which,
substitute. Yeah. Sativa is like stevia if it was sugar. It's like what stevia tastes like, kinda.
Right, exactly. That's a great.
It's easy to remember. You can remember
it's
either.
pithy is what
Indica's
it is.
indica, shores, sativa's like stevia, which is like sugar.
Yeah,
And hybrid, which is just in between.
yeah.
But
I'm not an idiot, Tom.
But the thing is,
I've listened to Linkin Park. I understand the theory behind it.
but here's the problem, that these terms have kind of just become marketing terms. And same thing with like the names of strains,
Mm-hmm.
where, I don't know, there's not like so sativa and indica, from what I read, there used to be two different types of cannabis plants.
Okay.
And I forget, like one grew shorter and one grew longer.
There's no mnemonic for that.
No, there's no mnemonic for that. But I think it was like one was like sturdier and one was, I don't know, it wasn't, was like maybe more fragile but more potent. And basically it's like they started mixing.
Fragile, huh?
Well, like maybe
it's a fragile.
so people started crossbreeding them to get the best traits of each. And that's the thing.
Now they can't get them apart.
Yeah, that there's not a way to actually get. And also like the strains, like the names, Kush, OG Kush.
Right, I know that OG.
Yeah. Things like Purple Urkel.
Purple Urkel?
Yeah.
That's great.
Things like
Jaleel White should get royalties if that's being
he
sold.
has his own brand
Okay,
called Purple Urkel, I believe. But those, there's not like an agency enforcing, like, is this really Purple Urkel, or is this,
Carmelo Anthony.
or is this Carmelo Anthony?
He launched a cannabis brand.
Yeah.
Stay Mellow.
Okay. Because he's Carmelo.
Yeah. If it's not caramel flavored,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
really
it's
missing
not.
it.
Most weed you smoke isn't flavored, or at least the good stuff, or doesn't have an added flavor like caramel.
The dispensary is in Astoria, and Carmelo Anthony was there yesterday.
Wow, timely.
And the L in Stay Mellow is a 7, which it's not even an upside down 7, but it's because he's number 7.
Right? Does he still play?
Yeah, yes, I don't know.
Anyway,
I'm not a drugs guy or a sports guy, Tom.
So the strains, it's kind of all over the place. So I think you did the right thing by talking to somebody and asking them.
Yeah.
Like, hey,
Thank you.
What's good here?
You did the right thing, buddy, by talking to
You
someone.
did the right thing. I mean, you didn't trust that person.
I did. I'm sure they sold me the weakest strain or whatever.
Yeah.
But, because I was even like, I'll pay more even if for something weaker.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like
a
sure.
real rube.
Yeah. Real doe-eyed.
Somebody sold you a bag of oregano out the back. There's also a lot of these places deliver. I've never had weed delivered. I don't know why.
I've had friends who have.
Yeah? What do they say? From like legit places?
Oh, no.
Yeah. Because
From a guy with a backpack.
I think
and
that's
shifty eyes.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's what it is, that like I still just have that like stereotype in my head of like, that's what a weed guy's like.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you order a delivery from one of these places. I mean, I guess I don't buy it often enough that I would need to not just go walk a few blocks to get it.
Right.
But yeah, even in the past, I did before. I don't know if the statute of limitations has passed, but before it was legal, I remember I did ask a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, who will remain nameless for legal reasons.
Just say it and remember to bleep it.
No,
later.
I'm not going to do that. And like he gave me a person's like text, a phone number to text,
Right.
and was like, tell him I sent you. And that was fine. And the guy was very nice, but it was still like I had to like go outside and sit in somebody else's car, like a stranger's car.
Yeah.
And he just had like a gigantic, no, I guess not gigantic, a regular size black garbage bag just full of like packaged up, weed in between his legs in the car, in the driver's seat. So like I got in the passenger seat. He's like, oh, hey, man. All right. So like, what do you want? And I'm like, oh, what do you have? And he's like, oh, he starts like pulling stuff out of his little garbage bag of tricks. And, it was fine, but I never used it again because I was like, that felt extremely sketchy.
And also, like, you're a man of a certain age.
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to do that for anything.
This was a long time ago, but still.
There's no statute of limitations that's gonna. It was within the last 5 years.
No, I think it was. No, I said it was before it was legal.
Oh, I thought you meant before. Yeah, so it was 5 years ago.
More than 5 years. That's what I'm saying.
It was in the height of COVID.
No, it was before COVID. It was like a long time ago. I think it was when I was like when I was first dabbling, when I was first like, you know what? I didn't do this in high school. I didn't do this in college. Let me see what this is all about.
Okay.
And I didn't know like, the first thing about how to get it. So I asked a friend and they were like, oh, text this guy.
Who'd you ask?
I'm not telling you. I mean, it's also very much not a big deal at this point.
I know, but you're acting like you're obscuring.
Well, because I'm not gonna sell out. I'm no rat, Tim.
You also correctly identified me as a narc. If you were a high school teacher, Tom, would you narc on kids that you knew were smoking weed?
If they were doing it in my classroom,
they'd have to be smoking in your classroom.
Well, how else would I narc on them?
What if they came in reeking of weed and giggling?
If they came
with the giggle fits.
Yeah, I mean, I would also consider that like, all right, well, you smoking weed is like disrupting my class.
Yeah, but what if everything that they said while they were high was like legitimately funny and like helped put the whole class at ease?
I mean, I was in classes that were like that. Where there were people that were legitimately high that teachers were just kind of like, whatever, it's funny.
Yeah.
I will say, like...
And in the 90s, I think you could get away with that, right?
Yeah, kind of. I think it wasn't that common.
Teachers being like, some of these kids are going to come in high on illicit drugs.
Some of these kids that look like stoners every day I see them are occasionally going to come in smelling like weed, and they are actually high. I think it was that it was like the people that smelled like weed or whatever. It was like, yeah, but they were like the stoners, and they didn't. I don't know. They didn't act out or anything. So it's like, they sat in the back and they were quiet. It was fine. Yeah. I think it's fine. I wouldn't narc on them, Tim.
Let's hear about some of the weed bans.
Oh, no, there was something else I wanted to say before that. But now I can't remember what it was. That reminded me of it. But it flew out of my head. Anyway.
Tom, in honor of the topic, are you doing this episode on weed?
It would seem
You've lost
like
your
it.
train of thought 15 times.
I know.
Also, I've been actively trying to derail.
Well, and you know what, Tim? I thought since it was 420, I'll have a toke right before.
Yeah.
And now I am.
Why didn't you?
No, I did. That's what I'm saying. And so that's why I am frequently losing my train of thought. Oh, this is what I was going to say. One thing about cannabis, Tim, that's nice is I feel like it's one of the few drugs, and I'll include like caffeine, alcohol, all kinds of stuff like that, that like it's nice to be around somebody else that's on it.
Yeah. For
the most part. Like, of course, things are going to go wrong.
If you're like relying on them for something, that sucks.
Yeah, no. As long as you're
if it's like, oh yeah, it's cool when you're babysitter. Like, nah.
No, I'm saying compared to like even just alcohol.
Yeah, they're not gonna like misunderstand something and get aggressive and pick a fight with you about it. Yeah,
we were at a house recently, and again, I'll keep names secret. But somebody that does not smoke weed often had some at this house we were all at, and was like the funniest guy for a half hour.
Yeah.
Just because he was laughing at everything, and it made everybody else who weren't, even if they weren't stoned, laugh at it. And it's like, you don't get that with a lot of other stuff.
No.
You know, or it's like, you had a little too much. Whereas like, you had too much to drink. It's like, oh, you jumped through the window. Like, oh, no, he's got a baseball bat. Now he's
being a
puking.
real asshole to everybody.
Yeah. I mean, in fairness, is somebody that has too much weed and is freaking out. That's not fun either.
Yeah, that rarely happens.
It happens
once in a while.
It happens less often than somebody having too much to drink,
Yeah.
I think.
What about when somebody does too much angel dust?
Tim, they could do anything. They could jump out a window.
I know. I saw it happen.
Famous weed bands.
In a movie, I saw it happen.
I thought you wanted to talk about movies. Famous weed bands. Bob Marley, we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Willie Nelson.
Yeah, that guy. The older he gets, the more he makes weed his whole thing, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way, the only way you can really stay relevant.
Yeah.
It's like,
why does he need to stay relevant? The guy's 116 years old.
Yeah, he lives for the road, man. He likes doing it.
Yeah.
And you need to sell tickets, so that's how he stays relevant.
Right.
Snoop Dogg.
Yeah. I believe his name is Snoop Doggy Dogg.
Yeah, he has openly embraced cannabis culture in his music and persona.
Now, I wasn't aware of that. I mostly just know his...
Well, that's the other thing, too. I feel like in pop culture, it was the same thing. Like people like him, like a Seth Rogen, that's like, oh, they're the weed X. They're the weed funny guy, the weed rapper. And like to be the weed rapper, that you need to really like be like, I'm going to set myself apart. I'm going to hammer home weed in everything I do until I'm known as the weed rapper.
Yeah, and he's successfully done it.
Yeah. Cypress Hill.
Mm-hmm.
Sublime.
Right. We talked about Sublime. Smoke 2 joints in the morning, smoke 2 joints at night, smoke 2 joints before I smoke 2 joints, and then I smoke 2 more.
That's a lot of joints.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he died of a weed overdose, Tom.
He died of heroin. That's the thing too. Like, I did have a section here about like popular, misconceptions.
You just named a bunch of musical artists and bands, and we're like, "Yep, weed."
Yep. Yeah,
we know. Yeah, we know.
About that here in weed. I was gonna talk about like misconceptions and the misconception that's a gateway drug.
Yeah.
When I think it's really just people that do heroin will also smoke weed.
Yeah, I do also feel like that year that I was a stoner, I was in rooms more often with a sketchier crowd.
Yeah.
And it's not like, I would say it's a gateway drug in that like, I did fall in with like the worst crowd. And some of that crowd did go on to do much worse stuff than weed.
Well, we all know about the Manson family murders, Tim. You don't have to remind us.
I was just there for the creepy crawlies.
I thought it was fun.
The creepy crawls. You just go in, you rearrange some furniture.
Yeah, you
get
out
out
the squares.
Yeah.
You leave it at that. No harm, no foul. Well, so to that point, do you think that legal dispensaries help with that?
Make it not a gateway drug.
Yeah, make it not so that people have to get a weed dealer that is like, oh, and also I sell pills and anything else.
Yeah, no, I probably. I don't know. I'm not a sociologist. But I do think the whole, I think the misconception of people, as a gateway drug is weed makes me feel good, but it stopped making me feel good enough. I need to level up. And that's, in my experience, that was not the case.
No.
It was more like, I'm in close proximity to more scumbags now.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll start doing more things, more general things with them. And hey, they're doing other drugs because they were going to do other drugs anyway.
Well,
and now I'm in the room with them.
Yeah. I'm in the room where it happens.
Yeah.
Drugs.
Drugs.
Well, I think for our generation specifically, that was part of why like Dare was such a bad idea. Because I remember even in high school, like I didn't know shit.
Dare was the program where they would bring a cop into our classes in elementary school
and try and scare us about drugs, and it worked.
Drug abuse resistance awareness. Nope, drug
something
abuse
like that.
resistance.
Yeah, it was an
education.
Acronym. No, education's not in.
What?
Oh yeah, it is. It's the last letter. I was thinking of drug as an acronym. Yes, no, it makes sense. But I think
Tom, your addiction to weed has made this show impossible to produce. This episode's not going out. This is an intervention.
You know what? I mean, this is why I normally don't before an episode because I just get forgetful. Which made me forget about what the next thing I was going to say was. God damn it. Oh, I was going to say all these Dare officers telling us like, okay, drugs are bad. And the first time you take it, it could kill you. And that applies to heroin, cocaine, and marijuana. Like that everything was just grouped in together.
Yeah.
So I think some people, especially dumb people our age, like they heard that and then they tried weed and they're like, this is fine. I bet everything they told us was horse shit.
Yeah.
And then so that's why I think like the dispensaries will help with that because it's just going to become a different type of thing, and when it's like, oh, that's, it's why like you don't have to worry about like, oh, these teens, they love wine. You can't keep them out of these wine shops. It's like, nah, they see it as like, that's a thing older people do. Mm-hmm. Except for French teens. And Italian teens.
Really? They love wine?
They love wine. They're allowed to drink it at a young age.
Yeah, I mean, you would all know all about that.
Also famous, the Beatles introduced to marijuana by Bob Dylan.
Mm-hmm.
Did they need Bob Dylan? Nobody had brought it up to them before?
I don't know. I think
have you heard about marijuana?
I think they heard of it.
Yeah.
Because they were doing drugs. They were doing like speed, like monsters.
Yeah. But it never occurred
the
to them.
The Beatles, like, it's very funny. They're like, they're trying to wring out everything they can about the Beatles now. Like, what footage do we have? And like, they're doing all this like stuff about the Beatles early days. It's just like they were having like when they first came to the U.S.
Yeah, it was like those early
when
days.
they were like huge, right? They're like, now we'll do another like 6-hour documentary about Beatlemania when they came here. It's like, you're leaving out like all the orgies that they had and
all
like
the fun
drug.
stuff.
Yeah, it's like. No, they were just like, as you would expect, like...
Yeah, they were just scumbag rock and roll drug addicts. There's never been like an unofficial Beatles documentary that's like any good.
Documentary, no, but there have been books that have chronicled.
Yeah, but that's kind of interesting. There's never been like
not a lot of footage.
Yeah, well, I think they're powerful
You're looking
enough.
for the orgy footage, right?
Yeah. No, I'm just saying, like, I feel like it's like they're powerful enough that it's like nobody would touch, they'd be like, we don't want to pick up this. I guess it's that there's no documentary footage. So it would just be, I don't know, old people being like, I saw them doing cocaine.
Ringo Starr's son kicked out of The Who.
Yeah.
For overplaying.
Yeah,
drums.
But he's been in the band for like 30 years at this point.
And also, Keith Moon was the Who's drummer.
Yeah,
talk about overplaying.
Yeah, he's just
That's
playing
the
drum parts.
That's yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see the clip of where like Roger Daltrey like had to stop?
Yeah.
He's on stage with a mug of tea. Pete Townsend is sitting down, and they're playing like a rock song, and these guys are in their 80s.
Yeah.
Just like, you guys don't need. Same with Willie Nelson. Like, you guys don't need to be doing this.
Well,
Just stop.
That's what
Depressing all of us. It's making me very, very sad.
The article I read about it, they literally pointed out, they were like, he probably doesn't care that much because like these guys are in their 80s. Like Pete Davidson's going blind and deaf, and I forget what ailment Roger Waters has, but it's like Daltrey,
and he's the one going blind and deaf.
Oh, okay.
But really good at pinball.
I mean, it's and the final finger of the monkey's paw. If you like the show, you can find out more at tcgte.com. You can find our subreddit there, our Discord, and our Patreon. Patreon.com/complete guide. Hey, if you want to go there direct, if you want to cut out the middleman, where you can get weekly episodes of bonus podcasts, all kinds of things. This week, a special 420 bonus episode of what's the name of the show?
The Golden Age of Cinema.
The Golden Age of Cinema, about the 1990s cinema blockbusters, where we're going through the top 50 grossing movies of the 90s. Number 4 this week, Dazed and Confused.
It made $8 million at the box office.
Famous 90s stoner movie, which I had never seen before.
No, me neither.
You hadn't seen it either?
No.
Wow. All right. So if you want to hear us talk about that, patreon.com/complete guide is your one-stop shop.
Still be stoned for it.
Maybe I'm going to go retoke.
Yeah, maybe you should.
What's your favorite? How do you refer to
Mary Jane?
Yeah. And like the act of imbibing.
Toking up.
Toking
up on some Mary Jane.
Toking up on some Mary Jane.
Yeah. What do you say?
I call it weed.
Okay.
For the most part, or cannabis, as I'm doing now. Cannabis, though, like that's the corporate. That's the like, oh, we're rebranding, weed.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it's
now.
Actually called.
Yeah. Because what's the deal with marijuana? It's like there's some weird like origin.
It was like a
to
racist thing.
Yeah, it was like something about what Americans said Mexicans, what they called it or something. I forget. But yeah, that's why you don't really hear it called that anymore.
Right. I guess.
Yeah.
The Wheeze. Pauly Shore.
All right. We'll see you next week.
That was a HeadGum podcast.